My mother's voice over the speakerphone was completely casual, as if she were letting me know she had borrowed a cup of sugar. Rachel, honey, we went ahead and transferred the $400,000 from your grandfather's trust fund to your brother Leo today. He found the most gorgeous penthouse in the city for him and Chloe, and the wedding is next month. You're stable with your corporate job, so you don't really need it right now. Family has to support family. I stood frozen in the middle of my office floor, looking out at the city skyline. I am a senior corporate attorney specializing in contract law and asset protection. I deal with millions of dollars daily, analyzing loopholes and drafting bulletproof legal agreements. Yet, my own parents had just casually informed me that they had cleaned out my lifetime inheritance to buy a luxury apartment for my 26-year-old brother, who had never held a job for more than 6 months. My grandfather had set up that trust specifically for me before he passed away, intending it to secure my future after watching me work 80 hours a week to build my career. My mother didn't even wait for me to respond. She simply added, "Make sure you RSVP for the rehearsal dinner," and hung up the phone. I sat down at my desk, my heart pounding loudly against my ribs, but my mind instantly shifted into survival mode. As a lawyer, I knew getting angry wouldn't solve anything. I needed facts, data, and documentation. The trust fund was created under a strict joint signature clause. My grandfather, knowing my parents' financial irresponsibility and their extreme favoritism toward my younger brother, explicitly stated that the funds could only be released before my 35th birthday if both my mother and I signed the release forms together. My 35th birthday was still 6 months away. I opened my personal secure laptop and logged into the private trust account. There it was, a pending transfer confirmation for exactly $400,000, set to clear in exactly 72 hours. Attached to the digital file was a scanned authorization form. I zoomed in on the bottom of the page. Beside my mother's signature was my own name, written in a flawless sweeping script. It looked exactly like my handwriting, but I had never seen this document in my life. My own mother had forged my signature on a federal financial document to steal my life savings for her favorite child. The betrayal ran so deep that it left me breathless, but it didn't surprise me. For as long as I could remember, Leo was the golden child, and I was the unpaid support system. When we were younger, I worked 2 jobs to pay my own way through college and law school while my parents paid for Leo's private school, his cars, and his endless vacations. When Leo crashed his luxury sedan into a storefront 4 years ago, my parents begged me to represent him for free, weeping that a criminal record would ruin his future. I spent nights drafting motions to save him, only for Leo to skip the final court hearing because he wanted to attend a music festival. My parents blamed me for not handling it better. Over the past decade, I had given them over $60,000 in loans to help with their mortgage, only to find out later they used that money to fund Leo's lifestyle. Every time I tried to set a boundary, my mother would cry and accuse me of being cold, calculated, and ungrateful. They saw my intelligence and financial stability not as something to be proud of, but as a resource to be harvested for Leo's benefit. I picked up my phone and called my mother back. My voice was entirely devoid of emotion, a tactical mask I wore during intense legal depositions. "Mom, I'm looking at the trust authorization form right now. I never signed this." There was a long, heavy silence on the other end of the line before my mother cleared her throat, her tone shifting from casual to defensive. "Rachel, don't start with your legal drama. Your father and I did what was necessary. Leo's fiancée comes from a very wealthy family, and her parents were looking down on him. We couldn't let them think our family couldn't afford a proper home for the newlyweds. You have a beautiful townhouse and a massive salary. Why are you being so selfish? It's just a signature. We did it for the family name." I leaned back in my chair, adjusting my glasses. "You forged my signature on a notarized financial document, Mom. That is a federal offense." My mother laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Oh, please. What are you going to do? Sue your own mother? Call the police on your family? Don't make a fool of yourself, Rachel. The money is already allocated. Just accept it and be happy for your brother." She hung up on me again, confident that my desire to keep family peace would prevent me from taking action. But she forgot one crucial detail. I am not just her daughter. I am a trained legal strategist. I didn't call the police immediately, nor did I text Leo. Instead, I spent the next 48 hours quietly gathering every piece of evidence I possessed. I contacted the trust bank's compliance department, notifying them officially of a fraudulent transaction under my name. Because I was a co-trustee, I had the immediate legal right to place a temporary freeze on the entire account while an internal investigation took place. The 72-hour clock stopped instantly. The $400,000 transfer was locked in limbo. But I didn't stop there. If my parents wanted to play a game of financial chess using fraud, I was going to ensure they lost every single piece on the board. I began pulling up the records of the loans I had given my parents over the last 10 years. Unlike my mother, I never did anything without a paper trail. Every single dollar I had given them was tied to a signed promissory note that they had casually dismissed as just formality at the time. Those promissory notes totaled exactly $64,000, excluding interest. More importantly, the notes explicitly stated that if the loans were not repaid upon a written 30-day notice, I held the legal right to place a lien on their primary asset, their suburban family home. My parents had been living comfortably, assuming their daughter would never enforce a contract against them. I drafted the official demand letters for the immediate repayment of the loans, attaching copies of the signed notes. I then drafted a formal affidavit of forgery regarding the trust fund signature and sent it directly to the bank's legal counsel, backed by security footage from my office proving I was in a deposition 3 states away on the exact day and time the document was allegedly signed and notarized in our hometown. The notary who stamped the document was a close friend of my mother's. By doing this, my mother hadn't just endangered herself, she had compromised her friend's professional license. I felt a pang of sadness for how far my mother would go to coddle Leo, but the sadness quickly hardened into absolute resolve. By Thursday evening, the trap was set. I received an urgent panic text message from Leo. "Rachel, what the hell did you do? The real estate agent says the escrow funds for the penthouse are blocked because of a legal hold on the trust account. The seller is going to pull out of the deal. Chloe is hysterical. Fix this right now." I didn't reply to the text. Instead, I sent a group message to my mother, father, and Leo. "I will be at the family house tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. to discuss the trust. Have your documents ready." The next day, I drove down to my childhood home. Walking up the driveway, I felt like an outsider entering a hostile territory. When I opened the front door, the tension in the living room was thick enough to cut with a knife. My father was pacing back and forth, my mother was sitting on the sofa with a tear-stained tissue, and Leo was leaning against the fireplace, glaring at me with pure venom. "You've really outdone yourself this time, Rachel," Leo spat, stepping toward me. "You're so jealous of my happiness that you'd ruin my marriage before it even starts." I didn't answer Leo. I walked directly to the dining table, unbuttoned my coat, and laid out 3 separate manila folders. "Sit down," I said calmly. My father looked at my cold demeanor and slowly sat down, pulling my mother with him. Leo remained standing, crossing his arms. "We don't need a presentation, Rachel," my father said, his voice heavy with anger. "Your mother told me what happened. It was a mistake to handle the paperwork without you, but we are your parents. We raised you. We put you through school. That trust fund money belongs to this family, and we decided it should go to Leo. Unfreeze the account immediately." I looked at my father, a man who hadn't paid a single cent toward my university tuition because he was too busy financing Leo's failed business ventures. "First of all, Dad, Grandpa paid for my school through a separate scholarship fund. You didn't pay a dime. Second, this fund was explicitly left to me. Now let's look at folder number 1. I opened the first file, sliding the forgery affidavit and the bank's investigation notice across the table. "This is an official notification from the bank's fraud division," I explained, pointing to the highlighted text. "The signature on this document is a forgery. The notary, your friend Martha, has already been contacted by the bank's legal team. She has confessed that she notarized the document without me being present, purely as a favor to you, Mom. Martha is currently facing the revocation of her notary license and potential criminal charges. And you, Mom, are facing a federal investigation for bank fraud." My mother's face went entirely white. She dropped her tissue, her hands shaking. "Rachel, you wouldn't. Martha has 3 kids. I didn't think. I just wanted to help Leo." I looked at her without an ounce of pity. You didn't think about anyone but Leo as usual. The bank has already canceled the transfer permanently. The $400,000 remains in the trust, and it will stay there until my 35th birthday, fully protected from you. The penthouse deal is officially dead. Leo slammed his fist on the mantelpiece. You ruined my life. Chloe's family is going to cancel the wedding. You're a heartless psychopath, Rachel. I'm a lawyer, Leo. Learn the difference, I said, opening the second folder. I slid the promissory notes and the 30-day demand letters toward my father. This folder contains the documentation for the $64,000 I loaned you over the past decade. I have given you 30 days to repay the full balance. Since I know you don't have that money because you spent it all on Leo's lifestyle, my attorney has already filed a prejudgment attachment on this house. If the debt is not settled, this property will be seized and sold at auction. My father stared at the papers, his jaw dropping. You're foreclosing on your own parents? Where are we supposed to live? We built this life for you. I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a whisper that commanded the entire room. You built a life for Leo. You used me as a financial safety net while treating me like an outcast. You violated federal law to steal from me. You chose your side a long time ago. I am simply enforcing the consequences of your choices. The room erupted into screaming. My mother fell to her knees, grabbing my coat, begging me to withdraw the fraud complaint to save her friend Martha and herself. Leo was screaming profanities, punching the wall, while my father sat paralyzed in his chair, staring at the destruction of his financial stability. I stood up, completely unbothered by the chaos around me. I zipped my briefcase, put on my coat, and looked down at my family. The wedding is in a month, right, Leo? I suggest you tell Chloe's wealthy family the truth. Let's see if they still want you when they realize you're penniless. I walked out of the house, closing the door behind me, cutting off the sound of their despair. By the next morning, the internal bank investigation concluded, fully clearing my name and securing my grandfather's trust forever. My parents had to list their house for sale to pay off my debt and avoid a public lawsuit, moving into a tiny rental apartment. Leo's fiancée broke off the engagement within 48 hours of finding out there was no penthouse. They wanted to sacrifice my entire future for a lie, but in their boundless entitlement, they ended up losing absolutely everything.